it could not be different. Aaron and me lived so happily together, and we were everybody in his own space, in his own profession, totally free. A lot of space. Psychological, philosophical, physical, mental, and we were so devoted. Everybody to his total work. Aaron with his linguistics and me with my music compositions. And it was so important for Aaron to work on his, it was so important for Aaron to work in his field that he said all the time, I'm doing something sacred. When he met the doctors, he told them, I'm okay, leave me, I just want to do my work. I do something for the mankind. הוא אמר לרופאים, אני עושה עבודה קדושה, תעזבו אותי. הוא אפילו צעק עליהם. He even was shouting at them, just leave me. So it was quite difficult to treat him as somebody that is sick. In this corner, still his computer stands here, located exactly on the point that it was all his life. 35 years together in this flat. He was a lot in this place, working individually, day and night, with this computer. He used to take books from one place to another, especially when he worked on a family or a group of families or group of languages. He took the books here. They are all surrounding him. He's working on that, hardly jumps up and goes to another place. Then he moves other books from another family to this place. I must say that all this room was so full of shelves and columns of dictionaries of all languages that we know from his research, the Nostratic macro family. This whole room was totally covered, and also the walls there with a lot of dictionaries. There were more of Semitic linguistics. I can remember, and here were more of the Russian and the Slavistic, and here Altaic, because he himself also kept it more or less with families and with some selective, thought, but it was looking like a big chaos. When he died, it was really astonishing. He did not feel that he is going to die. He was still working. He went from his bed there, just going to the computer, to his chair, and fell on a mountain of books, very softly. And he was also very nice when he died. You could not see any, hits or some damaging of his, face. He looked really so calm, going to work, just stopping to breathe. So it was very natural for me to think that this whole treasure should not stay here, but go somewhere else, to a place that could be for the public. And thanks to Clara and thanks to Lida, we are now in Jerusalem building the Center for Nostratic Research on his name. Thanks for everybody that is helping.
A long-lost language involves recreating a complete grammar and syntax, as well as a vocabulary. This mammoth task is taking place in the midst of one of the oddest collections of dictionaries and grammars in the world. Oharin Dolgopolsky is another Russian linguist living in exile in Israel. He starts with words that he believes are more resistant to change over time.
Linguists know where to look for ancient words. We know that what is called the kernel vocabulary is usually stable. For instance, the word for water, as you know, in English is just the same as in German and as in Russian. So we know that in which meanings we can expect to find a word which has been preserved for thousands of years. Well, it includes body parts, words for water and well, to eat, to be, man, etc.
But how persuasive are Ruland's examples to other linguists? Has he unearthed the true mother tongue?
It's quite possible. There are some very, very impressive examples, but impressive examples is one thing, but serious reconstruction, in order to make it, we must first reconstruct all kinds of languages. This is one thing. That's why I think that it is probably feasible, but just today it is probably too early.
עכשיו היינו רוצים לשמוע מהם החומרים הממשיים. תן לנו דוגמאות של חומרים לשוניים ממשיים הקיימים בשפות השונות שמעלות את הרעיון שיש קשר בין כל השפות, בין כל המשפחות האלה.
טוב, יש המון שורשים משותפים בין כל השפות האלה שהן משותפים. זה אפשר לראות, בנינו את הפונטיקה השבועתית בין השפות. אנחנו יודעים איזו פונמה פרוטו-נוסטרטית הופכת לאיזו פונמה הודו-אירופית, איזו פונמה שמית וכו' וכו'. לפי חוקים מדויקים, כמו בכלל בכל בלשנות משווה, לפי אותן השיטות. לתת דוגמאות, יש המון דוגמאות.
Dear friends, comparative Semito-Hamitic linguistics has suffered a great loss recently. Aaron Borisovich Dolgopolsky, doyen of this domain, professor emeritus of Haifa University, passed away at the end of July 2012 in his home. He worked until the very last moment of his life, which ended in his huge library room among his beloved books. I should emphasize right at the start that there are several other people, especially his older friends from Moscow, who know him much better than I do. Therefore, these brief recollections of mine can be no more than just a short appraisal of his enormous scientific production and a fragmentary collection of my personal impressions. I have known Aaron Dolgopolsky's name ever since I've begun dealing with Afro-Asiatic comparative linguistics. I came to know him personally only much later at the Italian Conference on Afro-Asiatic Linguistics in Naples in January 1996. Since then, there have been a number of pleasant occasions of discussing comparative linguistics questions with him. I will never forget September 1998, when I spent nearly a whole month in Haifa with him. It was wonderful from both a scientific and a personal viewpoint to be with him. There was nothing he would not have done for me those days. Then, some decade later, I revisited him 3 times in 2008, 9 and 10 in Haifa, in his home, when he was working on the revision of his immense Nostratic dictionary, to which I assisted him in the field of Semito-Hamitic lexicography. I considered it important to be in his company even in these last difficult years of his life, just as I was eager to visit Igor Mikhailovich Dyakonov, the other giant of Semito-Hamitic and Oriental studies, in St. Petersburg in the late 90s. Unfortunately, our research for a comparative historical phonology and lexicon of the vast Semito-Hamitic macrofamily has frequently been endangered by the scarcity of how few scholars devote themselves to such an exotic and rather neglected academic field as Semito-Hamitic is. With the loss of Igor Mikhailovich Dyakonov and Aaron Borisovich Dolgopolsky, hardly a handful of enthusiastic linguists remained in this domain. Actually, Hermann Jungreitmeier in Frankfurt, Olga Stolbova in Moscow, Alexander Militaryov in New York, Václav Blažek in Czechia, and myself. It was therefore my pleasure to devote him, Aaron Dolgopolsky, an entire festschrift on the occasion of his 75th birthday anniversary. In 2008, the book was published by Dietrich Reimer Verlag of Berlin. This volume is abounding in excellent papers from all branches of the vast Semito-Hamitic linguistic macrofamily. I was also honored by having been invited to participate in the celebration of Aaron Dolgopolsky's 80th birthday anniversary in Haifa. This was the last time I personally contacted him in November 2010. Despite his health condition, he was unstoppable and inexhaustible at his writing desk in his library room among his beloved books, as he had always been a self-sacrificing scholar in his whole life. An absolute researcher, a type of personality I very rarely encountered. Void of egoism and snobbery, he immediately conquered my soul from the very first moments. Gifted with an enormous sense of humor and a genuine musicality, not a minute was joyless in his company. I can hardly enumerate what a lot I have learned from him. May the memory of my dear master be blessed. Thank you.
We are now going to have a presentation by Professor Hermann Jungreitmeier of Goethe University, Frankfurt, Germany, in memory of the late Professor Dolgopolsky of Haifa University, Israel.
The world of linguists mourns for one of its greatest members, Professor Dr. Aharon Dolgopolsky, an outstanding scholar and wonderful humane personality. He remains the symbol of a cultural hero on a universal and historic scale, who, throughout his life, has devoted his talent and unfailing energy to the realization of the linguistic, humane, cultural ideal to a profound degree. He aspired to describe in a brilliant scientific manner the relationship between languages from the earliest times as evidence of the human race's common history and way of life. This is a particularly daring mission, since he entered into the very essence of the phonological, lexical, and grammatical structure and etymology and stocks of different language families, such as Indo-European, Semito-Hamitic, Kartvelian, Uralic, Altaic, and Dravidian. Most linguists specialize in a more or less narrow linguistic field, whereas Dolgopolsky's scope of research reaches out for the common linguistic foundation of transgenetic relationship. Dolgopolsky's excellence was that by means of extremely detailed data evidence, he succeeded in proving the relationship between seemingly distant linguistic families. He began to publish on this field of nostratic issues in 1963. At about this time, he also worked on the reconstruction of Proto-Cushitic, the fundamental comparative historical dictionary of Cushitic languages, which appeared in 1973, testified to its author's immense knowledge in this field and his expert treatment of lexical data. Since then, he continued his fruitful research at Haifa University in Israel. Over the past decades, he kept preparing his magnum opus, the Nostratic Dictionary, the first comparative dictionary of the Nostratic languages. The immense quantity of etymologies he has proposed and his exceptional exactitude and masterful way of presenting the lexical data are the outstanding qualities of his great achievement. Aharon Dolgopolsky's capacities were far beyond the normal. He had a sound professional knowledge and an excellent acquaintance with the literature of a very wide range of languages. He was fond of fierce debate, devoid of personal and academic preconceptions, and led by his eagerness to learn objective reality with inexhaustible energy. As R.M. Bulatova wrote in 1989, quote, Aharon proved to be a person capable of great self-sacrifice, a selfless worker, ready to perform any amount of labor in the interest of science. The scientific community will keep and honor the memory of the pioneering research work of an outstanding scholar and an admirably humane personality. Thank you.
С Ароном Борисовичем Долгопольским я познакомился 50 лет назад, в 1962 году. Тогда Долгопольский уже работал научным сотрудником сектора структурной лингвистики Академического института русского языка в Москве, а я туда поступал. Заведовал сектором профессор Шаумян, который разрешал своим сотрудникам работать в любой области языкознания. Долгопольский сразу же начал мне рассказывать о своих исследованиях по ностратическим языкам, и это мне было очень интересно, потому что я тоже немного занимался дальним родством языков. За годы, прошедшие с тех пор, Долгопольский проделал колоссальную работу по реконструкции корней ностратического языка, который существовал более 12 тысяч лет тому назад. Восстановленные Долгопольским слова произносились людьми задолго до того, как возникли такие языки, как индоевропейский, афроазиатский, картвельский, уральский, алтайский и дравидийский. Каждый из этих 6 языков со временем распался на диалекты, из которых за несколько тысяч лет образовались 6 больших языковых семей – индоевропейская, уральская, алтайская и так далее. Настратический язык, к которым эти семьи относятся, покрывает почти всю Европу, северную часть Африки, значительную часть Азии, а за последние несколько столетий настратические языки стали основными языками Северной и Южной Америки. Долгопольский хорошо знал эти языки, ведь ему для реконструкции корней нужно было понять, какие звуковые законы управляют этими языками, как эти законы возникли и как они изменялись. Поэтому в его словаре есть множество таблиц точных звуковых соответствий между разными языками. Но главный результат работы Долгопольского – это восстановленные настратические корни, слова, которых несколько тысяч. Просматривая его многотомный словарь, любознательный человек может обнаружить названия предметов и даже орудий, которые существовали в глубокой древности. Можно увидеть, что существовало, например, древнее слово, которое значило «переваливать через гору». И это понятно, ведь древние люди в поисках пищи постоянно переходили с места на место и так постепенно разбрелись по всему свету. Можно назвать много важных открытий, сделанных Долгопольским в нашей науке. Например, еще в конце 50-х годов прошлого века Долгопольский обнаружил, что существует порядок распределения наиболее частых слов в языках мира. Этот порядок не зависит от того, к какой группе или семье относится данный язык. Самые частые слова – это личные местоимения, отрицание «не» или «нет», название частей тела, например, нос, глаз, ухо, и некоторые глаголы. Долгопольский показал, кроме того, что существует иерархия устойчивости частых слов. Так что некоторые слова сохраняются в течение тысячелетий, а другие могут исчезать, но вот тогда возникают новые слова из этого же языка в том же, в старом значении. Такие замены могут происходить в языке неоднократно. Долгопольский очень заботился о том, чтобы широкий круг любознательных людей имел доступ к самым новым достижениям сравнительного языкознания. Поэтому еще 50 лет назад он начал читать лекции по настратике в Московском университете и читал их несколько лет, добавляя все новые и новые результаты к своему курсу. Так он воспитал целое поколение талантливых ученых. Кроме того, он напечатал много популярных статей по историческому языкознанию. И при всем при том он был очень общительным человеком. И я очень горжусь, что мы оставались друзьями все эти годы, хотя и встречались не так уж часто. От Энн-Арбора до Хайфы далеко. Арон Борисович Долгопольский был действительно великим ученым. Таких на свете единицы. Он обогатил нашу науку замечательными идеями и открытиями, и они наверняка будут нужны людям все время, пока существует наша культура.
וגם את החבילות הרגילות הגדולות. נוכל להסתכל אחר כך, נכון? אני ממזכרת את הדפים שאני צילמתי. עשית? איזה משהו זה. Да, прекрасно.
Так, вот это общее, вот это есть? Есть?
Я его совсем недавно.
Специалистовали?
А вот есть еще одна.
Серьезно,
עכשיו אתה מסייג גם את הספרים ככה, כן, באותו סטייל.
Yes.
אל הווטאי, עקון, כהלה, אשי, בלהקה, נווטה, שדה, אקה, איה, אלה, יקו, פלא, אובה, וטה.
אני רוצה